on Twitter, which, by the way, they don't actually do. If you're using password as your password on Twitter, someone can log into that account and then gain access to everything that account has access to. Right? It becomes one-stop shopping for your digital life. So just do the right thing.
This episode's originally scheduled to be untitled because you know what? In the last 2 weeks, there's been nothing. Like, honestly, nothing. I mean, Tom's telling you about little things here and there, but you know what? Nothing that we really can bring to you. I mean, right, Tom? And basically, nobody reads the terms of service. South Park did a parody of it. We know that the Apple iTunes EULA is 40 pages long. No one reads it, and people like to actually read it as interpretive. What is it? Like interpretive acting or improv class, and like to throw in some things just to see if people actually did read it, and they still don't read it. Nobody reads these things. So they create a website that will go in and say what they're actually doing. For example, I mean, to me, the biggest story of last week is the reauthorization of some of the codes of the Patriot Act. But here's the thing. I mean, we could tell you what it means, and you can call people and say, don't do this, but that turns into a... So this website, again, tosdr.org, goes to the different websites and gives it thumbs up, thumbs down, and sideways thumbs based on different things. With it. So
it's an uphill a lot you can do there. Google gets some thumbs down. They're yellow thumbs down. They're not the big red X's. So, you know, it keeps your searches and identify information, tracks you across to other websites. It can share your personal information with other parties. They can turn off your account at any time. You know, the general stuff. But you don't have to read through to get this information. It's right there in 5 bullet points. You know exactly what you're agreeing to.
Links you. It's a little scary, but it links you to their what you're getting thumbs down to. And you have to ask yourself, and they give it a grade at the end, Class C in this case for Google, and DuckDuckGo gets an A. You have to say, well, that's what Google does. They track you. That's their whole point. That's their whole business model. So if you're not okay with tracking, then listen to 2 episodes ago or last episode and how to move your stuff away. YouTube gets a big red X. They can remove your content at any time without prior note and without prior note. And you have to that they can throw copyright underneath it and say, hey, look, this song that you had in the background in the elevator, somebody said they don't want, and we have to take it down. They have to follow the rules. So they get a big red X because they have to do it. But that's not because...
Good security thing. And there's pictures of the services, the little icons. I've got Facebook, stuff that allows user-generated content. Has got to be a party to the DMCA, which is really unfortunate because it gets abused more often than it gets properly utilized. And that's for the people on video right now. Let's go ahead and bring up this site real quick. This is making fantastic radio.
Well, basically what Tom is that he's going to share the that he allowed Twitter to have.
It's open and free for anyone else to use for any reason. Green thumbs up. You can give comments before they make changes to the site. Cool. That's kind of nice. Green thumbs up. Wikipedia uses temporary session cookies, and that's it. You can if you want, but you don't have to. Awesome. I said a lot of these sites.
Now, there's a little more detail on why they gave it the thumbs up or the thumbs down with it, because what you're doing is you're saying, you know what, I don't necessarily want to have this generic login at this generic site, but I trust Twitter.
Donate or the Wikipedia dies. And luckily, you know, people like, I know you and I, we donate whatever we can. And lots of people on the internet love Wikipedia, so they keep giving money. Google, on the other hand, has to sell advertising, so they have to have your information.
Like Facebook, no pseudonym allowed. Well, we know that. I mean, yes, you can. Some of your friends get away with it because Facebook really can't check. But then again, it's a social network based on who you are. So saying that they allow it means that there's going to be a lot more trolls and a lot more violations and this and that. So they say, you know what? No.
Right.
Apple
is
the user. Well, yeah, they change it. They're not. Most companies are not going to say, "Hey, we want to change it. We want your input," which a lot of them still do. But Apple, you know what? They need to change stuff because some sort of contract negotiation. They're not going to do it without necessarily telling you. But it's a free service. I mean, or you can't really blame them. I don't know. You take these.
Yeah. If I just wanted to get rid of it, I would just click this right here, and it goes away. So I don't need this app. I'm going to click this, and gone. And you can also click to give back access if you wanted to. I'm going to go ahead and keep that there. But it's just that easy. I had a bunch of stuff in here from old applications that I was no longer sites that I never note. You cannot delete your account. Netflix. You can request access and deletion of personal info. So if you're going to use a service and you want to jump in, maybe use it for a little while, delete your account, unless someone makes
with a fake, not necessarily a fake name, but my username.
Depends on the service. Now, for some things, I will. For other things, it depends on if I'm just using the service to browse and consume content, and I'm never going to post, I'm never going to comment, I'm never going to give content back to the site. That is the future. If I would even have the smallest inkling, then yes, absolutely, I will lock down my name. Except what I want you to see. Now, that might limit your functionality of the app. I know for Twitter,
that had about a 30-minute buzz. I quickly ran there, got it. I don't use Elo. I don't think anybody uses Elo anymore, and I'm sorry to the Elo people if you're listening. I don't use it. I'm sorry.
I did not. Anything that's compared to your account, so you can make a comment time on it. But so far, that hasn't happened since Twitter.
Well, so I ran and got it, and now I'm not using it. I don't want to delete the account yet because, one, I don't know if they recycle the usernames. We know that Yahoo, after 6 months, does. But I signed up for it because I don't want anyone to take... I'm basically cyber squatting. I don't want anyone to take the name.
Right.
I mean, we saw what happened with Twitter. The people were trying anything else. Here they OAuth allowed it, and all the sites listed here are very, very good websites. They're clearly there. Like Twitter and Facebook, you trust them. You already give them your personal information, and if they got hacked, you have bigger problems than what are they going to post on my wall or whatever.
Right.
Time at their discretion without notice to the user. Now, we know that LastPass does actually tell you, but they probably can tell you. They don't need to tell you that they're changing some terms of service. And I wonder if this incorporates national security letters.
The sites nowadays, they've got, hey, you can log in with Twitter. In here, we're going to make you use set a username and password. Some sites will do that. Some of them won't. If they don't, getting rid of Twitter or losing that account somehow might limit your access. Does that do a lot of things right? If a company on this list, or any company for that matter in the US, got a national security letter for information on you, if they had it, they would have to give it up. There's no way around it. Either they give it, or government fines bleed
long, complicated password.
And it could go without per day. That's $250,000 per day that they did not comply with the secret gag order, national security letter, Orwellian memo of I'm going to destroy the earth. They were losing $250,000 per day. Yahoo's a big company. Yahoo doesn't like losing money. As a matter of fact, they hate losing money. But a lot of these other companies, I don't imagine DuckDuckGo could survive $250,000 per day. Right? A lot of these companies are just going to bend over backwards for the government agency and say, yeah, whatever you want, we don't really have a choice. Everything that account has access to. Right? It becomes one-stop shopping for your digital life.
Let's shift to a website I found out about years ago. Service, you are not allowed to class action status any complaint, which is in favor of the business and not the individual.
Right, right. It is not your friend to do arbitration, to do no class action, to do. And
that we know that the Apple iTunes EULA is 40 pages long. No one reads it. And people like to actually read it as interpretive, what is it?
News, Lenovo is now they need to defend themselves against a class action lawsuit about
these things. For example, when Google Docs first came out, Google do read the new changes coming, and they tell you how to necessarily defend yourself. Basically, I think PayPal was the last one. They said that they're changing something, but because they're changing it, they're giving you the option to opt out, so you can cancel your PayPal account if you don't agree with it. Again, you got to read it, and this is a good website. I want to move on to our last website, different things. Twofactorauth.org, all spelled out. And it's a list of as many sites as they can think of, and whether it has two-factor or not. And for the most part, a lot of them do.
Yeah, all the big players here. We've got iCloud, Box, Dropbox, Evernote, Google Drive, a bunch of banks, lots of banks. A U.S. bank does not support two-factor authentication. So they give you a cool button here with Twitter's logo. It says, tell them to support 2FA. And what it'll do, it'll take you to Twitter with a pre-filled out tweet box that says, security is important. U.S. Bank, we'd like it if you supported two-factor auth. And
they give it a grade at the end, Class C in this case for Google, and DuckDuckGo gets an A. You have to say, well, that's what Google does. Well, and I mean, the problem with this website. So I've seen this website now for a while. The problem with it is it doesn't tell you exactly what the box means. So they remove your content at any time without prior note and without a phone call if you want. Throw copyright underneath it and say, hey, look, this song that you had in the background in the elevator, somebody said what you went on to take it down. They have to follow the rules. So they get a big red X because they have to do it. You don't want it where the company, their app, has the authentication built in. Right. Here's the shocker, Walla. Walla, I can't remember which company they're from. They're from one of the hard disk manufacturers. They were supposed to have an encrypted everything type thing. They do not have two-factor authentication.
Right. I mean, unfortunately.
Neither does Spider Oak.
Yeah. General, and I hate this line of thinking. I absolutely despise it. I have heard this excuse time and time again with these trust no one services from... I know 1Password is really guilty of it, and we've talked about them before. They said, oh, well, we don't really have any of your data, and we can't really do anything with it, so why do we need two-factor? It's not about that. It's about losing control of a password. It's about having your data modified, deleted. There's several reasons to use two-factor. If you're running authentication on the internet, having two-factor is basically a requirement if you do anything remotely important with the service. There's really no excuse, especially because this stuff is open source. Everyone is using a framework of some kind, and those frameworks have libraries. They have plug-and-play modules that you throw in and say, hey, I want two-factor. Rails has got it. Django has got it. Node has it. I could just name off hundreds of web services or tens of web frameworks, and they've got libraries written for them already. It's really easy to do.
I'll give you Twitter. I don't know, 2 years ago, a while ago. It's been a while. Created actually a really slick way to do two-factor authentication. The problem is you were required to use their app and not any of the third-party apps, which is a lot of them still do. But Apple, you know what? They need to change stuff because some sort of contract negotiation. They're not going to do it without necessarily telling you identifier in your device. The problem is it's proprietary, and we all know that. I don't know. You take these change terms of service. Well, I'm sure they'll tell you, but I think they get the thumbs down because they did it first, and then they're going to ask questions later.
And there's some stuff that you probably want to pay attention to. So let's look at Skype. you cannot delete your account. Note, you cannot delete your account. Netflix, you can request access and deletion of personal info. So if you're going to use a service and you jump in, maybe use it for a little while, delete implementations everywhere, this is not that hard to pull off. I don't understand what the big deal is. You don't even have to enable it by default. Make it a checkbox somewhere in the back room of the settings where no one looks, because a guy like me is going to go in there and be like, oh, hey, two-factor authentication, check mark, done. I've done it to several sites where they bury the two-factor authentication in the back room of the settings somewhere, and I hunt it down and find it. And I'm really thankful because, you know, the people who don't care or don't know don't have to enable it. But people like you, me, our listeners that care a little bit more about security, we have the option. Smallest inkling, then yes, absolutely.
Use the default standards. Don't write your own. Writing your own Elo. Elo is a social network from August that had about a 30-minute buzz. I quickly ran there, got it. I don't use Elo. I don't think anybody uses Elo anymore, and I'm sorry to the Elo people.
Website, if you work in a place where people are, do not under any circumstances write your own crypto, write your own security libraries, write your own security implementations. Go somewhere that has done it correctly. There are several fantastic libraries out there that have implemented this correctly. Look at their implementation, or better yet, I know for Ruby on Rails, I don't write my own password module, right? I take the gem that someone else has written and I plug it in. The secure password implementation, it can even do two-factor authentication with a plugin. Don't build it.
I mean, we saw what happened with Twitter. The people were trying to get the first names, and you try to sign up with your first name on Twitter now, it's gone. Put on, give them the warning that will thing out of them. Or there was a way to say, we have prior knowledge that your username is all this other stuff by turning this on. If you're turning on two-factor, don't make it an option on the front page, but make it in the settings. But if you're turning on two-factor, you know what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you
and I wonder if this thing,
yeah,
they basically can't tell you if they're getting a national security letter, so they have to write that they're going to change it. That doesn't mean that they do.
Well, find that even companies rating on here that do a lot of things right. If a company on this list, or any company for that matter in the U.S., got a national security letter for information on you, if they had it, they would have to give it up. There's no way around it. That right there. So you know how to do it. If you can't give them the code, it unchecks as soon as you're away from that page. It says, okay, they didn't really want two-factor, or 250,000 per day that they did not comply with the secret gag order national security letter.
Well, they're still valid today, even though some of them are a little stale. This two-factor site's good, but it's not perfect. And any website that does offer it in some way, we do have to offer congratulations. We do want to say good job.
Oh yeah, losing money. But these other companies, I don't imagine survive $250,000 per day. Right? A lot of these companies are just going to bend over backwards for the government agency and say, yeah, whatever you want, we don't really have a choice.
I mean, you're right, and they can't. So that's why you see a lot of this stuff that's written in there. They're trying to protect themselves.